we just talked a lot about mistakes that I made in the last 2 years.
We all made those mistakes though. I felt like I wasn't a real performer until I had like a split. I ended up tearing my hamstring off the bone this much, and it took me a year to recover from it.
We have a special present for you.
Push forward. Arms straight. Yeah.
I want to start off with a little background story today, sharing with you how I started taking aerial lessons online before diving into today's topic. When I started working from home in March, I thought spending so much time with my rig is gonna be so fun and I'm gonna be so good. But I found that it was really hard to keep going because without the social element, there was nobody that I could watch and learn from. I could watch a lot of videos on Instagram, but there was really nothing to keep me going. I just felt a lot of pain and a lot of struggle, and I was alone. And I was so close to giving up. I called Sophia, the one who brought aerial to my life, and I was asking if she would want to coach me online. We were both a little bit nervous at first, but I'm very glad that we took this step because I really think I would have given up doing aerial instead of creating more videos. Anyway, that was the backstory of how I started learning aerial online. There are a couple of things I want to share with you in this video surrounding the topic of learning aerial at your own space. And I thought if I would share with you how online lessons can help you to grow your aerial skills, I should also imagine what if I don't have a rig at home, what would I do? As I imagine that might be the challenge for some of you. One piece of equipment that really caught my eyes is called the Lollipop Hoop. It looks a little bit like a pole and a hoop had a baby together. And it is much cheaper than buying a portable rig and a hoop. So today I invite a special guest, Iman, to share with you her experience as a professional performer and an instructor for both aerial and Lollipop Hoop. She gave me a little combo to try, so keep watching if you want to see what an online aerial lesson looks like.
My name is Iman. I am a performer and instructor based out of Toronto. I started at a very late age. I started at 23 at a pole studio that also offered aerial hoop. I fell in love. I started performing probably like 4 months into my training. I'm really excited to have like this little boutique studio space. I like keep calling it boutique because like it's little. I've got like 2 points here, 2 poles and 2 lollies, and like I want it to be kind of like a more intimate space for students to learn in versus like being in a larger class where they feel like they get lost. It's so exciting to see students like when they first get up in the air or something like that, and then you see it in them, in their eyes, and they get hooked and they're like, oh my god. And I remember like those days for myself, so it's like it's really nice to be able to like offer that to other people. So yeah, I'm like excited to be teaching a little bit more in 2021. First show, probably about like 4 months into like my training, and I got paid $100 to do aerial hoop on New Year's Eve at like a small private party. And from there I got like hooked, and like at that time I had this choreo that I came up with. I didn't have the stamina for a 2-minute, 3-minute routine. A show with a doubles partner, and it was like a Women's Day event. We got amazing, like phenomenal photos from this event, and then I went off and I started submitting it to a bunch of companies, and I was like, I'm a professional, hire me. Our sets were 20 minutes long, and we used to do 3 sets of 20 minutes, and we had to be up in the air for the majority of it because of animation. It's like in the background, so that really helped me build up my stamina. And a lot of people gave me like a ton of opportunities, and that's kind of how I started performing.
You were the one who sent out all these emails, get in touch with all these people, asking for different opportunity to begin with. So that's really amazing.
if you don't put yourself out there, no one's gonna know who you are, right? So I was kind of a gym rat. Like I would wake up at 6 a.m., go to the gym, and then I would go to my desk job. And I never felt like strong. Like I couldn't do pull-ups. I started doing pole and aerial and like circus. I started to I didn't lose weight necessarily, but I saw a lot of definition. And it wasn't about like what my body looked like anymore. It was about what my body could do.
It felt exactly the same. Whatever shape you're in, you just become a fitter person in your own way.
That was the thing that really drew me to it, and then performing was almost like this really special bonus that came with it.
How do you train as a professional aerialist? Because you perform, you teach, and then you also have to train. And you already mentioned to me that you do at least 15 hours a week.
What I usually do is I split up the days to like conditioning, flexibility and mobility, and then creative. And when I train, I usually do like 30-minute warm-up, 30 to 45-minute warm-up of like some ground conditioning stuff and like some stretching. Knowing that you're not going to get everything, and then working on the fundamentals to be able to like get that skill or get that trick. So I think it's super important, like the conditioning and the flexibility training. Those are like your foundational skills. I bought the Lollipop Lyra, and I was like one of the first people in Toronto to own one, because the Lolly is like an option that doesn't require rigging. It like books very well for patios and outdoor events and weddings. The venue doesn't have points or something like that. That's like a really easy sell. People love it. Agents love it because they don't have to deal with with the rigging either. So it's nice to like actually have several apparatuses that you're working on. It gives you like different goals to hit. Sometimes you'll plateau in one apparatus, and so you move on to the other one, and then you go back and you find that you're stronger.
If I would use a lollipop, would that means that I still be able to do what I learned from hoop to?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. For example, like my doubles partner is primarily like a silks performer, has never done pole. She does hoop and silks, and so she just does the stuff that she knows in hoop, and it's great. It's a great way to like train those things. It feels different for sure. So it's anchored from the bottom, so it feels a lot more static, and it doesn't really like move with you or swing with you like a hanging hoop would. But that's something that you get used to and something that you learn. And then Lolly also has its own tricks where that are like exclusive to the apparatus, like the stuff that you can do at the top, because there's no point there, like doing a walking person on top and stuff like that. You wouldn't necessarily it wouldn't even look the same if you were trying to do it on a hanging hoop. During this pandemic, I'm like, I'm gonna learn silks. So I have a couple of my friends who are professional silks artists who are like now teaching me, and then I kind of we do a little bit of a skill share some days.
If I'm not interested in pole at all, but I cannot install an aerial at home, so I want to buy a Lollipop hoop to practice what I want to learn on aerial hoop, would you say that I have disadvantages compared to people that actually practice on aerial hoop?
As long as you're working on something, you're going to improve. I would have an advantage if I had a Lollipop at home and I was training Lolly at home, and then I was going into the studio and training hoop there and trying to carry stuff over because I was getting more time. It's like the 10,000 hour rule, right? So the more time you practice on like any apparatus, the more air time you get, the better. Spins from a bearing unit. Actually, I can show you what it looks like. This is your bearing unit. So it spins from this, right? So that's like completely different than creating spin from like your swivel from the top up. It'll feel different, like no matter what. But the more air time you get, the better. I'm very strict with myself about that. It's like about 15 hours of training and whatever I can get my hands on. So.
My set at home doesn't have a high ceiling. I cannot practice a lot of tricks if I'm on the hoop doing a split. My foot literally touches the ceiling if it's not hitting the ceiling. But I was just thinking exactly what you were saying, any air time is still better than no air time. Are there any tricks that I cannot do on a lollipop hoop that I normally can do in an aerial hoop?
Key roll from the bottom bar, obviously you couldn't do because you've got a pole right there. Line rolls, elbow rolls, even like that cradle roll I have a tutorial on. You wouldn't necessarily be able to do that on a lolly or in the same way. You'd have to kind of like modify it to get around the pole at the bottom. So I think a lot of dynamic tricks like that you can't necessarily do. And a lot of the, like on the flip side, a lot of the pole stuff, so like being able to Aisha or Iron Axe, there's like unlimited possibilities on like any apparatus.
Do you have to drill any holes on the ground to make sure the lollipop stays, or do you just put it there?
I always say the base is like a pizza. You also have like legs that you can pull out to add to the stability, but it's a freestanding structure, so you don't need to drill it into anything. Doesn't need to drill into the floor. It's got like rubber tips on the bottom, so it shouldn't damage your floors. But if you really wanted to, like sometimes what I do is I set it up on the rug, so it doesn't like scratch the floors or anything like that. You can set it up outside pretty much anywhere as long as it's on like flat, even ground.
I know you have some student that use a lollipop at home to work on their aerial or their hoop skills in general.
They love it. Like they love that they can like still get up in the air. They can still do something and feel like they're working towards those like aerial goals. And then they know that when they get back into the studio, they're not going to be like completely lost. And the thing that I've noticed a couple of students do is they will take the A pole, so the base pole, and they will take it to a welder and they'll get it cut down by a professional, just a tiny bit so that it fits their spaces.
If I buy a lollipop tomorrow and I want to learn aerial hoop, how do you recommend me to start using the videos in your channel?
I would say start with that 7 different entries. Because some of them are a little bit different than like your typical aerial hoop entry. Existing aerial hoop videos, and most of those combos can also be done on Lollipop Lyra. So I usually mention it in the intro, like if this can also be done on your lollies. I do have some top bar tricks, so like once you get comfortable like in the apparatus and getting up in the air, and I know for a lot of people when they get up on their lolly at first, they're like, wow, it's wobbly. Like that's like a thing that scares people a little bit, is that it wobbles. But it's a freestanding structure, so it's not gonna go anywhere. It's not gonna like tip over on you or anything like that. Top hand is going to reach across to 9 o'clock. From here, I'm gonna push forward into my birdie. So underneath your opposite hand. Yeah. Now you're gonna take your top hand and reach across. Yep. And then just push forward. Arms straight. Yeah, there it is.
I am amazed how well it works, especially hoop rolls are always challenging for me, physically and mentally. But since the first one worked so well, I accepted Iman's challenge to do a second one, which is an intermediate roll.
Pull in. Yeah. So see how you kind of lost your...
And it felt really hard right away. If you ever feel like what you're working on is too hard, that you might never get there, that feeling is not likely to go away because there's always something more challenging that we might want to achieve one after another. And we keep going. It's because defeating that feeling, doing something that you never be able to do before, especially as you get older, it's a very wonderful feeling. I wish to give you all a holiday cheer, so we have a special present for you. If you have a hoop and are looking to get better, you have a chance to win a 1-hour private lesson with Iman just like the one I had. All you have to do is to subscribe to both of our channels. Use the link in the description to sign up for your 60-minute session. First 10 to use the code Aerial Practice will be the winners of this giveaway. The spots are going to run out soon, so be sure to sign up now if you're interested. We are working on another special. Don't forget to come back next week to unwrap more presents we have for you. See you next week.